George Stubbs, White Horse Frightened by a Lion from 1770. It measures 40 inches by 50 and a quarter inches. It's in the Walker Art Gallery in Liverpool, England. The theme of a lion attacking a horse preoccupied the artist for more than 30 years and inspired 17 to 20 works, which are mostly paintings in oil or enamel, and included 2 engravings by Stubbs, as well as a relief model in Wedgwood clay. Stubbs said he had made an unrecorded visit to the coast of Africa, witnessed a lion attacking a Barbary horse. It is most likely that Stubbs derived inspiration from an antique marble sculpture in the Palazzo dei Conservatori in the Campidoglio, the Roman hill, on his Roman visit of 1754. This work had been admired since the late Renaissance as a work of great expressive power. It was said to have been admired by Michelangelo. It provided Panini and Richard Wilson of the 18th century with motifs for paintings. The backward turn of the horse's head is derived from Gissy's engraving in the free variation of John Bologna, the sculptor from the late 1600s, and in copies which Stubbs may have known in England, a life-size one made by Peter Schumacher for Roushan in 1743, and a reduced marble version acquired by Henry Blundell. The Roman sculpture is pre-Hellenistic. The lion was studied. The lion in Stubbs' painting was actually studied from Lord Shelburne's menagerie at Hounslow Heath in England, and the horse was studied from the king's horses in the Mews, which the architect Payne procured for Stubbs. It was also popular in an engraved form. Here, the white horse frightened and the white horse attacked. The second one, the white horse attacked, were apparently pendants to be hung together. They have the same scale and size, and they're both on canvas. The backgrounds have become more generalized and romantic, probably inspired by recollections of Creswell Crags rather than drawn from life. The earlier drama was acted out in noonday light in the center of this composition. The light is here more dramatic, the action off slightly to the side, as if to foreshadow the danger and isolation of the horse. Stubbs heightened effect on the horse by making the background very dark. There is a 4-part sequence from surprise to the wounding of the horse, which one can find in different paintings of the same subject. This painting is Joseph Wright of Derby, Miravan breaking open the tomb of his ancestors from 1772. It was exhibited at the Society of Artists in England in 1772, and it was number 417 in the catalog, and it was described as an otherwise obscure Greek tale that came from the historian Herodotus. And this is a quote from the catalog. Miravan, a young nobleman of Ingria, breaking open the tomb of his ancestors in search of wealth. In his tomb is a treasure greater than Croesus possessed. He has found, on entering it, the following, an inscription: "Here dwells repose. Sacrilegious wretch searches for gold among the dead. Go, son of avarice, thou canst not enjoy repose." End of quote. Wright wrote down parts of the story in his account book, and here's a quote from the book. Miravan, a young noble, beautiful, already enjoying all the good things of this world, was walking one day among the tombs of his ancestors. An inscribed tablet arrested his attention. It read, "In this tomb is a greater treasure than ever Croesus possessed. He is inflamed immediately with the very lust of avarice. Miravan ordered the marble jaws of the tomb to be opened. But instead of finding immense treasures, He was struck speechless with disappointment to behold nothing but a heap of bones and dust, with this inscription over it, quote, "Here would have dwelt eternal repose, a treasure that Croesus never possessed, which thou hast driven hence, being excited by an insatiable love of gold, to disturb the sacred remains of thy progenitor. They had not thy reason been deluded by a false fancy, she would have told thee that the grave contains nothing but dust and ashes." End of quote. The artist had said to his sister Nancy in 1772, "This will be a favorite picture of mine." Not only was it exhibited at the Society, but it was engraved by Valentine Green several months later, which made the artist money. In Herodotus, there is a very similar story of how Darius, son of Hyspazi, opened a similarly inscribed tomb of Nitocris, queen of Babylon, but instead of treasures only found a decayed corpse. There is a lost popular painting of this subject by René Antoine Huas, which was called Darius Opening the Tomb of Nitocris. Wright took it as an Eastern story. He added Persian lettering from a manuscript source. A partially smashed wooden door can be made out. We see the night in the background. Trailing ivy seems to blow across the sight of the moon. A bronze figure in a hanging lamp turns its back on the world to tend the low light above the tomb. We can also think of Wright of Derby perhaps being critical in this painting, indirectly alluding to those people who were going to the ancient tombs of Italy and actually opening up many of the temple sites in pursuit of treasures of rare works of art. So Wright of Derby may have viewed them as grave robbers, criticizing some of the initiatives of the neoclassical movement. This work is called Saul and the Witch of Endor. It was made by Benjamin West in 1777. It's currently in Hartford, Connecticut at the Wadsworth Atheneum. The Witch of Endor was a woman who called upon the ghost of the recently deceased prophet Samuel at the demand of King Saul, the first king of the Israelites. It is recounted in Book 1, Chapter 28, verse 325 of Samuel in the Bible. When Saul was confronted with the anticipated attack by the combined forces of the Philistines and terrified by the sight of the enemy's numbers from the heights of Gilboa, looking at the enemy encampments in Shuran, he prayed and asked God for help, but received no answer. Saul did not hear anything in dreams or high priest divinations. So he pursued a woman possessing magical powers through a talisman with which it invoked the dead. Under disguise, Saul found her at Endor. He convinced her that she will be safe and that she summoned the recently deceased Samuel, who had advised the young king at the start of his new government. At the sight of Samuel, she cried out in a loud voice and charged the king, whom she immediately recognized with having deceived her. Saul allayed her fears and made her tell him what she had seen. She said she saw a god, Elohim, coming out of the earth, an old man wrapped in a cloak. Before the unseen spirit, Saul prostrated himself. Samuel complained at being disturbed, while Saul pleaded for help from his immediate danger and his and his abandonment by God. Samuel refused help and foresaw the downfall of the king and his dynasty. After Saul had fainted from exhaustion and hunger, the witch comforted him and convinced Saul to accept her hospitality. He ate and then departed on his journey back and was killed. The outcry of the woman was that the spirit had arisen upright, not horizontally as she had expected. Saul had driven prophets and necromancers out of his kingdom a short time earlier. This painting was purchased in 1779 by Daniel Dolby of Liverpool. The painting was not exhibited, but it was engraved 3 times. West probably saw a print after Salvator Rosa's painting of the same subject in the previous century, where the ghost was more factual and Saul more restrained. Mortimer and Fuseli also produced this subject during the 1770s around the same time.